at the Children's Home of York, and we're going to do a little interview with them. First, we told you about the history of the Children's Home of York, but now we're going to talk about what it's like today.
So, can you tell us then some success stories of today, kids that you've seen gone through your doors and then go out and live fully productive lives?
Yeah, I mean, absolutely. I think that, like you had mentioned early on, the orphanage model, it worked during a period of time, but then we realized that there are better ways to serve kids, and creating that home-like environment where kids feel like they're a part of a family even today is critical. One of the stories that sticks out to me the most is probably the most recent since I've been here, but we had a child who had been institutionalized since they were 6 years old, on and off, and there was no doubt in our mind that this particular child would have spent the rest of their life in an institution. And there was nobody in the state of Pennsylvania that would take this particular child because of the complexity of the mental health and the behavioral challenges. And they are currently in our Bridges program. They've stepped down out of a partial hospitalization program. They've started in our school, which is our partial hospitalization program. And they're tracking towards moving back into a public school setting and back home with their family. So to have a child that was, institutionalized since the age of 6 years old, to be living a very typical experience or heading towards a typical experience, it's one of the things that I think sustains us as an organization, is to see kids who have that experience with us.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, and we're just really lucky that our kids come back and they share their successes with us. So even though we might just be a small period of time in their life, that they want to come back and say hey, I remember when you said this, or hey, I'm married now, or I have a child now. So just having that, those moments, that's what sustains you. And when the days are hard, you remember there is success, and it's the small moments too. So we like to talk about the big ones, but in the moment, it's one of our kids getting their first job, or going to prom, or graduating high school,
making the football team.
So those things that maybe some people consider normal experiences, for our kids who, have had to overcome a lot of barriers, it's a big deal, and it's so cool to see their joy and excitement in that. So.
And you guys are more than just teachers. You're also your parents, your caretakers, you're their mentors, everything. How does that? Tell us about the toll that might take on your employees and all that weight they carry.
Yeah, for sure. So I think over the last, I want to say a couple, maybe decade, trauma-informed care has been a buzzword. And it's really easy to say we're a trauma-informed organization. But I would say we embrace that, and that means embracing it for our team members as well, and understanding that working in this field, there is hazards of secondary traumatic stress. So we embrace self-care, we embrace the joy that we find in the work, the whys for why we come every day, processing through the days that don't go as good as we hope, and then, of course, all the other benefits that come with being an employee at Children's Home and the kind of fringe things that happen. But I would say it's the joy, right?
Yeah, I agree. I think, you may not think of it like this, but oftentimes I do. It's an honor to be able to journey with children who have the needs that they have, and to walk with them and see them grow and flourish with us. It's truly an honor to be a part of their journey. So I think, that sustains our team as well, being a part of that experience and seeing that growth. I can't think of a more rewarding place to work.
Well, and you talk about the children, caring, right, being cared for by the children. And I remember when we did our tour, you talked about the interview process and how you can peg if someone's just there for a paycheck pretty quickly. You can tell if they're there to care about kids or not. And so you're choosy through the employment process to make sure that you pick right people that are there for the right intentions.
Yeah, honestly, I mean, this isn't typical work for, an individual who is there for a paycheck. I think you have to, your heart has to be in it, or you just wouldn't be able to work with the kids who have the complexity that our kids have. If you have a child who's experienced abuse and neglect, significant trauma, mental health challenges, working within that population day after day can be very challenging. So, if you don't have something else pulling you towards that work other than money, and obviously paycheck is important, but if you don't have more than that pulling you, I just don't think you can make it in our line of work.
Yeah, I would agree with that. I think it's the relationships too. So wanting to be that safe spot for a kiddo who's going through stuff in their life that's most of the time not even something that's in their control. So when we're talking about recruiting our team members, we're looking for that quality. We're looking for that quality when we're recruiting our foster parents as well. We want our foster parents to be mentors and understand that the goal is for our kids to return back to their homes, back to their communities, back to their permanent connections, and that we only want to be a safe spot for them temporarily, or as often and as long as they need us. But ultimately, we want every child to be with their family and their permanent connections.
And can you talk a little bit about the misconceptions with foster care and adoption?
Sure. I mean, I think partially one of the misconceptions I think people have are like children who come here, they're bad or they have bad behaviors. And we like to remind people that they actually have adaptive behaviors. You know, if you're thinking of a trauma-informed approach, a lot of the behaviors that they're demonstrating kept them safe in the environment they were in. They no longer need to use those behaviors in a new environment, but they continue to do so until they feel safe. And so I think that that's one of the misconceptions that I would want people to know, that our kids, given the right circumstances, given our team wrapped around them and the support that they need to heal, are really great kids with unlimited potential. And I think that's another thing that's really rewarding, is watching them start to grab that, hope again, just grab towards hope and seeing them achieve.
Yeah, and I think when you think about adoption, a lot of times you think like adopting a baby.
Yes.
And in our state, the need is for adoptive parents for kids 10 and older. So that's like one of the criteria if you're looking to adopt through the child welfare. There's a lot of benefits to doing that. There's not a cost associated with it. And after the adoption is finalized, the families get continued support. So they can reach out to the statewide adoption network. They can get respite visits. They can sometimes get money to care for ongoing costs for mental health or physical health needs, for the complex needs that some of the kids in the system might have. So that's one misconception, I think, is that like adoption's final, it's over, you don't have any more support. But in the state of Pennsylvania, if you're adopting through the child welfare system, there is that support basically for the life of your family. So
that was something I learned tonight. I think adoption is really, really expensive, and in some cases it is, but with you guys, with you guys it's not. In fact, there's support, and it is a complicated process. Could you very briefly walk through that?
Yeah, so the family has to be approved. So there is an approval process. You have to, go through make sure like everything's lining up. And
I'm glad you do that.
Yes, yeah, of course. And then on top of it, there's matching. So, there's like matching events where the kids and the families get to make sure like it's a good match for each other, because
that's an interview for each other. The kids are interviewing the parents too.
Yeah.
And I think another misconception too is one of the things we as an agency are trying to do is better support biological families. So we're always looking for resource families, individuals who want to foster, but the goal oftentimes is reunification with the biological parent. Can foster families work with the biological parent in order to make that happen sooner? And so, all those resource families oftentimes end up building families through adoption. The first goal of resource family should really be reunification with a biological family where it's appropriate and necessary and safe.
And we've seen so much success with that. Like we've had recently, like resource parents having birthday parties for the kids that are in their care and inviting the biological family. So it's like a big combined celebration of the child, and it's about supporting the child and not kind of like looking at it from like, this is my family now. And instead being very embracing of what the child needs.
And you provide resources to adults too, like how to be good parents, right?
Yeah, through our prevention programming and our Strengthening Families program, which is operating in most of the school districts throughout York County. That's aimed for adolescents 10 to 14 years old. And their parents, and then we offer childcare for kids that are younger that are in the
That's fantastic.
We also have a program called Integrated Practice Team, and that's really if a family is in crisis and there's a potential for a child to be separated from their family, this team wraps around them, and it's a community-based team that wraps around the family to try to address those needs to prevent any type of out-of-work placement.
That's amazing. That is one thing. My son was a preemie, and so he qualified for early intervention because he was behind on everything. He was born in the 1 percentile, and it took people coming into my house to teach me how to be a better parent. Like I didn't know that if I set him this way, he's going to learn how to roll that much faster. The small little things just taught me. It took a level of humility, though, right, to say like I don't know everything, and can you please help me? But it seems like a lot of the parents and the kids that you work with have that kind of growth mentality.
Yeah,
Good. One of the things I love that you ask with your trauma-informed care is not what's wrong with you, it's what happened to you. I think that's so important.
Yeah, I think that really helps people understand the kids that we work with. I talked earlier about people perhaps labeling our kids based on the behaviors that they're witnessing.
Right.
But when you think about like, why are those behaviors there? Where is the root of that? What happened to you versus what is wrong with you? And just flipping that sentence, it's Dr. Bruce Perry's work, and that was born out of Sandra Bloom's work with Sanctuary, which is a model we use in our entire organization of trauma-informed care, so that we really do focus on, you know, what happened and how do we address that root cause, and create that trusting, safe relationship, because that's where the healing occurs. You know, we've learned through Dr. Bruce Perry too, it's the relationship is first. And so when we build that rapport with the kids that we serve, there's so much healing that can happen once they have that trusted, safe relationship with an adult.
Do you have any success stories that stand out in your mind that you'd want to share?
Yeah, I mean, I've worked here since 2005, and like I always say, I grew up at Children's Home of York as like a professional.
Okay.
So I've worked in a bunch of different programs, and I think about the kids that I've worked with over the last 20 years and where they are now and who they are now as people, and just knowing that for a brief moment in their life, like we all got to impact that is so strong. But I think about like the kids that come in and they're not sure, you know, especially at our one group home that serves older adolescent males. They come in and they don't have a lot of hope or imagination for their future. So they just think that there isn't a lot of options for them. So our kids that have been able to go to college and experience that, but a young man that got, several young men that got to experience the armed forces and travel. We had a young man become a long haul truck driver, and he would send us pictures, like, you know, from the desert in Arizona.
Did you told him you never thought you'd see?
Yeah.
Did you say, not when you're driving?
Yeah. It didn't appear that he was driving. So
You better
maybe
be
it
at
was
a
like,
truck stop.
So just those experiences where they never thought that those things were possible for them, and then for them to, you know, come back and be able to say, like, you know, I'm doing these things, you know, and I didn't know that I was able to do those things. So it really just, you know, it's the why behind why we keep going, right? And even at our 160th event, like a couple weeks ago, there was a lady that came who saw it on Facebook, thanks for all your promotion, and came to the event and shared that she had grown up at the orphanage, you know, from like age 8 in the 1930s, and, you know, graduated high school, and then she went out to Westchester University and went to college, and then she didn't have, after she graduated college, she didn't have anywhere to go. She didn't really have family to support her, so she actually came back and worked at the children's home as a house mother until she met her husband and then started her own family. So, you know, just thinking about like being a resource, not just during the time that the kids are with us, but like kind of forever. And I know if you talk to any of our team members at our group homes, like the kids are constantly calling, stopping by, like, hey miss, I lost my ID. What do I do?
They called me miss
Yeah,
too.
so always miss.
That's like
Yeah.
a thing.
Yeah.
I just had recently, maybe about a month ago now, a student that I had reach out to me, and this kid was an absolute nightmare. He was like in the class, he criticized everything. He was nasty, he was mean, but every day I was, again, what happened to you, right? Like what's your backstory? He's from New York, wicked smart. He was also placed in a lower level class because he had missed that class because New York had flipped curricula, and I stayed with him, and he was really into business, and so I gave him Rich Dad Poor Dad. Have you ever read that book? It's a mindset book, right? It's a good like entry text. And he messaged me, he must have graduated like 4 years ago, and he said, Miss, you know, hey, I finally read that book, and you were right. I know, and it was just like, oh, like, it made me miss teaching like a little bit. I was like, man, I want to go back to the classroom. So my last question then, how can people who are encouraged by what you do, how can they get involved?
Yeah, that's a great question. I think it's one of my favorite ones because we're really working on trying to recruit a talented team of individuals who want to do this type of work. And so, you know, if individuals in your audience are interested in doing this type of work or learning more about what we do, I would encourage them to check out our Facebook page to see what positions are available. We're always looking for foster families and resource families who are willing to open up their homes and care for children. And then volunteer-related opportunities at work. We're always trying to build a very strong board of directors who are there to kind of to shape and shepherd the organization well. So if you're interested in volunteering, And obviously, there's always room to send cash. One of the things I think that is so wonderful about Children's Home of York is, it really what has been supported completely by our community since 1865. And, our community recognized the need and they stepped up to the plate, and they still do. A large chunk of our budget is raised by the York community to support York's kids.
Yay.
Yeah.
That makes me
Proud.
feel good about
Yeah.
you.
Yeah.
You can even play Santa though too. You have presentations.
There's that.
So we
There
have
you
a
go.
we have a
They
gift
need
drive.
a Santa
Yeah.
Claus.
And we have a gift drive every year at the holidays where the kids get to do their wish list and say
That's
kind of like
wonderful.
what they're
Like those angel trees.
yeah, kind of the same idea. So, and then we make sure the kids have a holiday. So, another way to play Santa.
And give local York. I
Give
can't.
local
You've gotta
York.
say give local
Yeah.
York. That would be a huge debt of gratitude. We're trying to raise money for a playground. Our kids
Oh, okay.
we're always trying to move energy out of our kids' body, emotional energy and physical energy, and there's no playground on this campus. So at any given moment, you'll see kids circling because our social workers take the kids out and walk the campus to
Yeah.
move that energy. So we want them to continue to do that, but also have a stop on a playground.
You heard it here first. We need to get them a playground. So if people want to find out more information, if they want to donate money, how do they contact you? Social media, website?
Yeah, I think it's probably the easiest. Obviously, we're on Facebook, Instagram, and our website would help them find all the resources that we have to offer and how they can contribute and help.
So that's www.childrenshomeofyork.org.
Yes,
That's
perfect.
it.
Thank you. That's what I was looking for.
Well, thank you guys so much for your
Yeah,
time.
thank
Thank you
you.
for letting us talk about Children's Home.
Absolutely.